So John, I have a statement to read whenever you're ready.
Pardon me?
I have a statement to read whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I could have come in a little earlier if I'd
No,
known you
you're
were ready. I've
fine.
been sitting out in my van.
Oh,
I want to reach over you and turn the microphone on.
okay. So we're ready. This is an administrative hearing being held on October 23rd, 2025 in the Vermillion County Courthouse. This hearing is being recorded and will be made public via the county's YouTube channel. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana as found in Indiana Code 6-1.1-1-1. This hearing is held in the manner of petition number 83-002-25-0-5-00002. Parcel number is 83-13-22-22007.000-002. The property address is 1002 South 8th Street in Clinton, Indiana. The assessment year under appeal is 2025. Does everyone present agree the year under appeal is as stated?
Yes.
Yes.
The current assessed value is land $14,600, improvement value $142,800 for a total assessment of $157,400. My name is Pat Ritchie. I will be conducting this hearing. Every effort will be made to keep each hearing limited to 20 minutes. Each side will be given an opportunity to present any evidence or comments in support. Our PTABOA will be allowed to ask questions to each side. A decision may be made today at the hearing or taken under advisement and moved to a work session at a later date. Anyone scheduled, well, you're here, so I'm not going to read that. The following persons are here representing the PTABOA. Pat Ritchie is president, Sandra Whitaker, and Brad Ringwald. Will the persons representing the petitioner please identify yourself for the record?
John A. Jones.
Thank you. Will the persons representing the county please identify yourselves?
Kathy Gould. Kathy Gould.
Thank you.
H. Gilmore.
Thank you. Will all persons who are or may be witnesses in this hearing please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Thank you. So the hearing begins. John, will you go ahead and tell us about your appeal, about your home and what you believe the value should be?
Okay. I was here a year ago this month, in front of you. The assessed value had gone up. I reported to you last year, 84% in a 5-year period. There was, first thing I was asked is, do I agree with the offer made by the assessor's office? I said no, but I do want to say, and I should have said it then, that was not an offer, that was a correction. Because it was sent to me in the mail when I came from the informal conference. The assessor was looking at the computer and said, well, I see a mistake we made, I will have to correct that.
Okay.
So anyway, here we are, 1 year later, well, 7 months later after I met with you last October, in July or June of this year, I get the new assessed valuation in the mail, and it had increased $38,000, another 32% on top of the 84% in a 5-year period. So, I know with this market value thing, and I appreciate sitting with Kathy at the informal conference. She was very professional, very courteous, and I presented this same information to her, and she said, Well, that's the kind of information we need, because if you don't give it to us, we're not aware of it. So
Okay.
that's what I'll be presenting to you today, and some of it
Okay.
is what I presented last year. So anyway, there's several things when you try to set the value of a house. And I said to Kathy, I said, it's more than square footage and curb appeal. Yeah, I know what my square footage is. Does it have curb appeal? Yes, it does, because I pretty well designed it, And 3 years ago, after not having the time or the money for 30 years, I finally got around, after I retired, to having the time and money to redo the front of it. And yes, it has curb appeal. And ironically, then the next year, I appealed 9 empty lots that's scattered around the neighborhood that I have. And Paige actually came down to look at that because it was coming up on the informal conference, and she saw my house. So I don't know if that had anything to do with this or what, but anyway, first thing, okay, location. I can go into some other details if you want me to. Location. I'm right dead center of the floodplain in the south half of Clinton. And I'm on the west end of it, which is where all the water comes from. And in 51 years since I've lived there, my basement has flooded 3 times, my crawl space, I've had to change the furnace twice, water heater, I think twice, lost a washer and dryer and all kinds of other stuff. But I've had flood water around the house about 15 times, caved in a basement wall. The neighborhood is the worst neighborhood in Clinton. And I've got the worst neighbor, catty corner from me, that anybody could have. And the city have been dealing with him for 3 years. And it's tied up here in court. And Jack Guilfoyle kept me informed, and he was just irate about it because this guy is a thief and everything else. And it's horrible. This last couple of years, it's got worse and worse. And I can't hardly stand and sit on my front porch with his junkyard across the street. But anyway, the streets are in terrible condition. Sidewalks never were finished. There's no curbs. So, these are all things that if somebody was in a prospect of buying a house, they would consider all these things. Okay, so there's some pictures of past flooding. You probably saw some of them last year. That's on the exterior.
Mine, when they're finished viewing them, I get to make photocopies.
I don't care.
Either that, or unless you want to submit these pictures and leave them.
That's the only copy that I have. If I had
Then,
two, I would.
if you don't mind, Paige
Oh,
can
that's
make
fine, yeah.
photos.
Yeah, I've got nothing to hide.
And this is your house?
Did you want?
I saw him, yeah, when he came in for this one.
Now, two,
So you said since you've lived there, you know of at least 15 times water's been around the house.
Do you have flood insurance?
no, I can't afford it.
Okay.
I was asked that last year. I was asked last year if I had it, what do you call it? The realtor does,
Appraisal?
appraisal. Well, I checked with one, $450. So, anyway.
Page.
Anyway, 2 years ago, when Jack Guilfoyle was mayor, I think I told you last year, maybe, I don't know. You know, it rained almost all night. I'm up all night checking the drainage ditches and the snake pit and the new holding pond on Ninth Street that Ed Kenizer put in, and they wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars of money. Went to the city council and talked to them about it. But Jack Guilfoyle was down there checking on the Bark Park the next morning, and I went and talked to him. But Jack had been up all night, waiting to see if I'm getting flooded. He said, yeah, I wouldn't want to live down here. And then he said, well, because I had told the city council 5 years before, when Kenizer was doing his job, that the drainage pipe from the snake pit, the holding pond, to the river was too small. And Jack told me 2 years ago, the city engineer agrees with you. Problem down here is the drainage pipe from the snake pit all the way to the river is too small. They didn't correct any of the flooding problem. So anyway, that was pictures of the exterior, you know. Okay, here's some pictures of interior damage from
I know we
flooding over the years. Like I say, my basement was flooded 3 times. I think the first time was '88 or something. So, you know,
Do you remember when the last time was we had a flood that actually got into your home? Do you remember the year? I don't remember how long it's been.
you mean the flood in the basement, or?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what year it was. It's,
I know we had some severe flooding in 2008, but I didn't know if we had anything
Yeah.
since then.
June of 2008. And June of 2008, you know, that's the only year in 51 years the flood water got high enough to go across 7th Street. I live between 7th Street and 8th Street. 7th Street's about 10 inches or so higher than the surrounding ground. And June of 08, it got high enough, and it flooded all the way to the hospital, flooded that whole floodplain in the south end. You had to go up Main Street to get out of the south end. And I had a rental house across the street. That basement flooded. Had another rental house west of me across the street. That basement flooded. That's the one I just tore down a couple years ago because it was shot from the flooding and the fire. But so yeah, that 08 was the last bad time. I have spent a bunch of money trying to seal the foundation, you know, dug a hole in the basement, put a sump pump in to try to keep up. And I just had some work done on my old Clinton brick foundation 3 years ago when I did all the work on the front. Next time I get flood water out, I'm hoping that enough water doesn't seep in. I'm hoping that sump pump will keep up. Anyway,
So keep in mind, John, you and I in here are the only two that live in the south end of Clinton.
right.
Our other members, they have no idea. So when you talk Snake Pit
Okay.
and the area that Ed Kenizer did, this was all done to help alleviate the flooding in the south end of town.
Right.
But since 2008, we have not had enough water to really test to see if it's going to work. I mean, my thought is that Jack Guilfoyle and the civil engineers and everyone that has looked at this is in high hopes that what all this work that has been done will eliminate the flooding to your home and the south end of Clinton.
No, it won't. And the mayor, Jack Guilfoyle, 2 years ago, admitted that, agreed with that when he told me the city engineer agrees with you. The pipe to the river is too small.
Too small.
And
But you haven't had water in your house since. When was the last time that you had water in your home?
okay, Ed Kenizer finished that project on 9th Street. I don't know if it was 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. I had water around my house the 2 following years.
Okay.
It it went over the overflow of the new holding pond on Ninth Street and flooded the whole area, flooded around my house. Did not get high enough to go across 7th Street, but, and the rental house north of me across the street. That second spring that it flooded, went over the overflow, it caved in 28 feet of that foundation on that house. Cost me thousands of dollars to get it locked back up and stuff. So, but anyway, those pictures I just gave you is from internal damage. And, you know, I bought that house 51 years ago. It was, I don't know, 900 square feet or whatever, little 4-bedroom house, added on bathroom. I've done a lot of work on, spent a lot of money on it over the years. I've got 6 rooms, 3 of them got paneling on the walls and suspended ceilings. Well, somebody was coming to look at it to buy it. You know, that you don't see that kind of stuff in a $160,000 house. You know, I mean, you don't. It's, you know, half of it is the old house, the old studs, the old joists, the old, you know, and the floor has settled. You know, one or two of those internal problem pictures I showed you is the 2-inch settled from where the old house is settled. I just noticed the other day one of my closet doors in that part of the old house opened about halfway, dragging the floor because that old part of the house just slowly over the years has settled. It's all sits on Clinton brick. And when you saw the basement jacks under, that's what it's under. You know, those are under that old part of the house. Hell, my bathroom door, I had to notice the other, well, I've had to take it off twice now to trim it off so it would shut. The jamb is a 1/2 inch out of plumb. That's right where that 2-inch drop is, and you know, where the Clinton brick collapsed underneath when it flooded the basement and everything. So anyway, that, I know I get carried away, and I've got pictures of 8 trailers here that within a couple hundred yards, 2 blocks, I don't know, 2.5 blocks. If you want to see them, I showed them to you last year. That's got a neighborhood I live in, you know, and that's why there's so many empty
You're
lots.
welcome to share it with the board.
Well, that's just I went around, took pictures of
And these are photographs of the neighborhood.
the neighborhood.
Is
This one's gone now.
this a trailer park? Or is it just trailer?
No,
It's just scattered
it's-
around.
That's why I'm
It's
asking.
scattered.
Yeah, scattered, west, east, northwest, and south.
That's where my daughter lived.
If any of them's gone, I didn't know it, you know.
Yeah, they cleaned that one up over on 9th Street. They did away with it altogether.
That's good.
When you're done, I'll
Yeah.
take those over and let Kate, what, no, I said when you're done, I'll take those over and let Kate.
Oh, okay.
The interior. When were these pictures taken?
When
These
was,
are the neighborhood. And
I
When?
just meant when.
When
I
did
didn't
you
know if it was
take
recently
these?
or a year or 2 ago.
That's
last year,
probably 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Because last year was the first year that I actually appealed the taxes on the house. I had appealed empty
we
lots.
talked a lot about your rental properties and different things, and the land.
Let's see a date on it.
And I got, you know, in 2019, I think it was, I've got 3 empty lots across the alley from there on 7th Street. And I forget what the assessed value was up to that point, and I got the new assessed value in the mail, and I mean, they like tripled or more. And I called Paige, I said,
Right.
man, why did you go up so much, you know? So anyway, I took at her, mailed me the Form 130s, and you know, and I appealed the, or anyway, I talked to Paige for a good while on a Thursday or Friday, Well, she called me back on Monday and said, you know, you got me thinking a lot about that floodplain, and she said, we are going to, me and my staff, going to go back over and kind of look at these valuations again. And I've got one of the papers in here or at home that it for 2019 or 2020, it showed two different valuations. One of them was the high one that she sent out, and then after I talked to her, she sent out new ones. So it actually shows a lower valuation the second time in 2020 or whatever it was. And she even said to me, you know, you can tell your neighbors they need to thank you, because if I hadn't talked to you about all this floodplain and everything, their taxes would be higher too. So anyway, I was tickled that they got dropped. So anyway, they just kept going up and up and up, and I never did appeal them until last year. Now this year, you know, I'm sitting here last year trying to convince you that my house isn't worth $120,000, you know, with the conditions and the flooding and everything. Now I'm trying to convince you it's not worth 158. I mean, G. Manetli had 38,000 a year in a, you know, a floodplain, the worst neighborhood in Clinton, the dumping area. Hell, you know, Feather Creek was always the bad area. They're building new houses up there now because they did correct that flooding problem. They haven't corrected my flooding problem a bit over the years. And Jack Guilfoyle would have told you that. You know.
So what do you think the value of your home is worth?
You know, I don't have an appraisal, and I'm not a realtor.
I know you don't have an appraisal, but.
I can tell you, you know, if somebody was looking for houses, and for, you know, for one thing, when you get the Form 130s, it gives you tips for a successful appeal, you know, and you read all that, and, you know, for one thing, it's got about 7 different things, and then it has 2 quotation marks. It says willing buyer and willing seller.
That's a valid sale, yeah.
Yeah.
I looked all over that paper. Where's these 2 asterisks that you're like a footnote you're supposed to refer to? There's nothing on there, so I'm not a willing seller. You know, I mean, I've told Paige that. You know, I'm not selling it. I'll be homeless, I guess, if I sell it. But you know, I'm trying to stay in the place until I die. I'm trying to be able to afford it. And you know, I've got an unusual situation. I've got a mess trying to set up a trust fund for my handicapped son and working with the state so that he can live there the rest of his life if we die before he does. I mean, I've just got a mess that you wouldn't believe, the bureaucracy and stuff, you know. He takes 7 day a week, 24-hour day care. I mean, it's either me or my wife, you know, and the older we get, the harder it's getting. And it's just, and, you know, the trust fund place I'm talking to in Indianapolis said a while back, said, well, okay, how much is the property tax? Oh, that's a good question. So, anyway.
Okay,
just,
you know, trying to stay within the 20 minutes, I'd like to give the county respondent a chance to present their case, if that's okay, John, please.
Yeah, you guys have a copy. He had requested the sales, and I saw that Paige had sent a copy of all the sales and everything. When we did speak, and he did show me some pictures, and yeah, we kind of look from the outside, don't have the inside information, so did kind of agree with that. What I had looked at is that I thought the condition of the dwelling was probably overstated, just basically looking at the outside. It did. If the inside looked like the outside, then yes, I would have agreed, but after seeing the interior photos, I thought it should probably be listed in fair condition.
Okay.
And then on his land, everybody in the neighborhood has the 20% flood influence, so it has been recognized, Paige has recognized that his floods a little more than the others, and then he kind of dumps into there a little bit more, and that he's getting 39%. off, where everything else around him is 20%. So it is recognized for his land situation with the flooding. And looking at some of the others, the sales in there, running a comparison, the range of sales runs between $40 a square foot and $132 a square foot, with the mean and the median being $74 and $75 a square foot. He's currently at $68 a square foot. The houses are comparable in age and conditions, grades, all of that. He does have, granted, some of these, I think, you know, they do set on different streets, but they're in the same neighborhood, same area. We've got 4th Street, 3rd Street, 6, 5, and on 8th, and that's where he's at, is on 8th. And the one that's on 8th Street has a square foot, sold at a square foot price of $76 a square foot. So it's still, I think his value is coming in line with what the market is doing. And yes, the market is increasing every year, whether we like it or dislike it. It is beneficial when we are getting ready to sell, but we don't like paying that additional tax that keeps going up on it. But that is,
Can I say something real quick?
yes, if Pat says you can.
Well, that part of the floodplain there where I live, matter of fact, the south of my yard, there's a poured concrete block wall because the next house south sits up 3 foot higher, the yard of my house. They did that because of the flooding. That's the edge of the floodplain, and it goes to the bottom of 8th Street Hill, which is a 3-block area, and over to Sportland Park and all that. But you just said that houses on South 8th have sold for $70 a square foot. There's been 0 houses sell in that floodplain, so you might be
This was on,
Because
this was
These are
at,
comps, and this is 4th Street, this is 6th Street.
1230
They're,
South
they're
8th.
not.
It's out of the
They're
floodplain.
using those comps. They're not in the.
No, that's south of me. I'm in the 1000 block. You get south of the 1000 block, it's out of the floodplain. You know, my big thing is location in this floodplain. And, you know, I'm the one house that gets it. As soon as the water comes from 9th Street to 8th Street, I get it. And only one time in 51 years has it gotten high enough to go across 7th Street and get the rest of those houses. So I would have never bought the place. I bought it when I was 20 years old, if I'd known I was gonna be dealing with this and flooding. You know, flooding's the worst thing I've ever dealt with in my life, just about, you know.
Okay, John, I would like to get this back to Kathy if she has anything
Yeah,
additional.
I'm sorry.
So you're fine.
I'm sorry.
There was one other sale that's on here, and it's at 1125 South 5th, and it's sold at $64 a square foot, but it also was a much larger house, so it was,
But they're not in the
Are
floodplain.
any of these houses
So
you
the
have in a floodplain?
1100 wouldn't be in the floodplain.
I'm gonna say, cause the
Because
ones
they're
I've got in
getting
front
flood,
of
they're
me
getting
have
flood
0 in
insurance,
front, so they're not in the floodplain.
they must be in the floodplain
So do
because
we
they're
have-
getting 20% off.
Yeah, but the ones we've got over here, neither one of them do. The one on 4th Street and 6th Street,
Okay,
The comps.
the comps that I have here have nothing.
okay.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and then this one on 1125 South 8th, it does have a 20%
Floodplain.
floodplain.
That's what I'm saying, but we
Yeah,
don't
but
have
that would-
anything in front of us.
Okay, we can make a copy of this. I didn't know what you guys actually had in your.
Well,
folder,
I've
but
got
that's-
1309 South 6th
Okay,
and
is that
1603 South 4th.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, I have those two. That one must just not got copied over into your,
Okay, so anything additional to add?
I don't have anything else.
John, do you have anything additional?
No, just, I was going through these two and highlighted some, you know, Pat, you live in a nice neighborhood. I'd love to live in that kind of neighborhood, and a house, I think in the block north of you, just sold last year for $50,000, you know?
Right.
I mean, in a nice neighborhood. Like
So,
I say, just to reiterate, I live in the worst part of Clinton, and some of the people that live there testify to that, you know? And I've talked to John Moore now about this thing with this one neighbor that's a horrible situation. It's tied up in court up here, ain't nothing else the city can do, and Jack Gilfoyle knew
So-
that too, so.
What I'd like to do, I'd like to go ahead and conclude this hearing. I will adjourn this case until further notice. The evidence that you have presented, thank you for bringing the photographs. And we'll consider this evidence and we'll render a decision. No additional evidence will be accepted for consideration since we didn't request anything during the hearing today. You'll be notified of our determination by mail on Form 115. You have the right to appeal this decision of this matter to the IBTR if you disagree with our determination. The procedure for appeal is set forth on the form containing our determination. So, again, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll let you know our determination.
You know, I checked on the, well, I did a long time ago, but, you know, most people, I imagine, get a break on your property taxes for being age 65 or older. Your income has to be less.
You might check with them while you're up here because some things have changed.
The law
So
has
just ask
changed.
them.
You can
I was
find.
up there earlier this year, now auditor's office, and they upped that minimum income to 45,000. Surprise, surprise, mine's a little bit above that. You know, I get no break there.
Me
I
too.
asked Paige a couple of years ago, you know, got a handicapped son, do I get a break for that? You know, well, put him on the deed, you know. Well, then me and my wife die, that's gonna be a mess. The state will end up with it, or the county or something. You know, I'll tell you what.
That, I would want some legal advice on that, I think, with a handicapped
Uh,
child and.
Oh, yeah, I've got an attorney, but it's about like when he turned 18. I tell you what, you wouldn't believe some of the things he go through. We had to get guardianship of him. We had to have
You can
an
go ahead,
attorney.
I think, and
We
turn
had
it
to get
on.
an attorney for him. We had to pay 2 attorneys and come up here in front of Stingle, you know, and go through all the court proceedings.